What's the best fighting scrim of all time? There's a bunch of choices like Nightmare vs Rat Zone and Summer Scuffle, or maybe even a different match that had cool moments or infamous moments. If you ask me or a few others, however, I would say the best scrim is not even a question to think about. The best scrim is of today's discussion, and that scrim is Nightmare vs Yuri Coalition in Crossroads Central Rival Revolt Losers Finals. Before we really talk about the scrim, however, let's set the stage of our teams here. On the left side is Team Nightmare, who is often considered the best team in competitive fighting and known for never losing a scrim ever, and was coming into the tournament as the favorite to take it all. Their bracket was going smooth, obtaining a 3-1 victory over 7Cs, a prior top team, and Prestigious Pros, who was a top team. However, during winter semifinals to decide who gets the first spot in grand finals, the second best team known as Rat Zone pulled off a crazy 3-0 upset against Nightmare, giving them their first ever loss and knocking them down to losers bracket to await the team that gets to the end of it.
Their revenge. Their revenge.
Their revenge. They got their revenge. Holy.
On the right side is a much more peculiar team, known as Yuri Coalition. Yuri Coalition entered the tournament as the new rising stars and even the underdogs coming into this tournament, and they were on fire, being able to beat 7Cs, who was a prior top team. Their momentum would turn incredibly rocky in the brackets, however, barely scraping out a 3-2 win against Wolf Deluxe before dropping into losers bracket to Rat Zone, losing 1-3. From there, Yuri Coalition kept clawing their way through, getting a 3-2 win over both registered and prestigious pros to finally end up in losers finals.
No way.
He doesn't get it.
Who won?
The kill from Yuriko.
Yuri Coalition. He takes it. They won. Oh my god.
Well, that was definitely something.
That was crazy.
Face to face with a team they never fought before, but also seemingly the hardest team they'll ever fight. I should also bring up what players both teams have, just to set the stage of their choices and whatnot. I will also be sometimes calling characters by their respective players, just for clarity sometimes. Nightmare's roster consisted of Diamond, who, while the best flex player, was mainly put onto the two tanks of the game. Coolio, who was mainly locked onto subspace for most of the scrim outside of one peculiar game. Uprising, once the best shuriken player, turned into a Rocket Biograph 2 trick during this time. Sharple, who was once the best boombox player, was adapting incredibly well to the new and reworked boombox pretty well, establishing himself as a great boombox player. And finally, Vapor, who was a Scythe 1 trick and considered the best of all Scythe players. Yuri Coalition had a much more straightforward approach, with them having Aster, who was an up-and-coming Biograph 1 trick with tons of skill, Dovekept, who was making a title as the best medkit player, Future Fruits, who went from 4th katana player to establishing herself as arguably one of the best katana players, Nico Nexus, who has become a top subspace and competent sword player at this time, and finally, Cynthia, who mastered Scythe and Coil and was also playing from the Asia region, which meant high ping and other side effects, which is fairly interesting to point out. They also go by Pichu sometimes, so yeah, I thought I should mention that. I should also point out that during this time, Medkit was even crazier, Rocket was busted at this time, Sword and Scythe were incredible filler options, among more nuanced stuff that I don't really want to get into because fighting has balancing, and balancing at this time was a bit shifty at times, but I needed to mention this because balancing. Before map picks, surprisingly, Nightmare pleaded to Yuri Coalition with a Conquer contract, which aimed to make the entire map list for their scrim all of Conquer maps and no Annihilate to be seen. Probably due to PTSD of fighting 7Cs and Rat Zone in those scrims, Yuri Coalition, knowing that Annihilate is a weak spot for them, unanimously agreed, thinking Nightmare was lying to them, but they would actually respect the deal, making this entire best of 7 scrim all Conquer maps. And now, it was finally time for the showdown. The true underdogs versus the titans of this game. But before that, there was a silly practice round where Yuri Coalition mainly went troll picks. They already had warm up prior to this, and they just used this round to play around because it's the calm before the storm. And when practice ended, it was now time for the big deal. Yuri Coalition picked teapots, one of their best maps thanks to medkit and subspace being incredibly powerful in this map, and Yuri Coalition having great dives so they can hamper enemy supports which can control the pacing of the game, especially since most of this map revolves around the final point of the map where subspace excels. Both teams ran similar comps going into game 1, the big difference being that Yuri Coalition has a medkit and Nightmare has a boombox. Yuri Coalition immediately won the first big brawl on the first point, giving them a huge lead at the start, but also making them hit point cap. During this time, point cap was a lot harsher as reaching 50 gave a 45-second timer for it to auto break and making 75 the hard cap. This would be changed later to making 100 the hard cap and reaching 50 put a 25-second timer to auto break. Nightmare abused this quirk extremely well on the second point, as while they weren't able to take a lead, Yuri Coalition was practically locked out of any snowball leads due to point cap timers. From there, it was back and forth before going to the final point where everything matters and Nightmare was up 5 points. On the third point, Nightmare kept controlling the point with huge finishers so they could try and take the lead, but Yuri Coalition kept taking the point back constantly to try and seal back the lead before overtime hits. Nightmare hit a crazy sub ult going to overtime, but thanks to Dovecap's med ult, the sub ult barely mattered and Yuri Coalition flipped the point into their favor. And as the countdown flicked to 1 on the screen during overtime, Nightmare did a pairing of Boombox ult and Scythe's gun ult, which allowed Scythe to be a walking sphere of doom, and easily dispatched the weakened bulk of Yuri Coalition to stop them from getting the win. Medkit and Scythe were able to live and shut down the Boombox, but after dispatching Yuri Coalition's Biograph, Nightmare's entire team stormed the point as they were able to contest with all 5 members to barely take game 1. This was an insane showing as Yuri Coalition had Teapots as one of their best picks. So seeing this happen was a huge surprise and was really a peek into what would happen later this scrim. Nightmare picked Bowling Alley, and it's pretty easy why. Scythe and Rocket are able to stagger teams from afar once they hold point and allow them to carry this momentum. Boombox and Banhammer could also dive in and stagger enemy teams, but also helps create great synergy between Banhammer and Scythe, which is why Nightmare went this way and put Uprising on Rocket and Diamond on Banhammer. Yuri Coalition stuck with the same core ideas they had, putting Nico on Sword instead of Subspace. Nightmare takes the point at first, which is what they want. While Bowling Alley was a big snowball map, the only characters Yuri Coalition had to cause staggers was Biograph and Scythe, and due to Cynthia's melee heavy playstyle of Scythe, their staggering on Bowling Alley wouldn't be significant, and especially thanks to Rocket and Subspace, Yuri Coalition wouldn't be able to win every fight on point since Nightmare had immense tank busting on their side. However, with the absence of a healer or sustainable fighters in general, Yuri Coalition is able to retake the point somewhat easily, and despite Nightmare having many ways to retake the point, a huge Biograph ult from Aster dispatching the Rocket and Scythe allows Yuri Coalition to rack up points along with shutting down the Banhammer ult on point, which is huge. However, Yuri Coalition also had to put up with the point cap demons once again. Point cap does break for them still in the lead, but Nightmare stacking a sub Boombox ult combo together allowed them to retake the point, albeit mainly due to them controlling the middle area and forcing Yuri Coalition off. But just as Nightmare finally built a lead, a scuffed Scythe gun ult from Vapor gives Yuri Coalition the chance to really break away in this game. However, because of how point cap works, Yuri Coalition was stuck at 75, which is absolutely horrible for them, even on a snowball map where they can't consistently hold. Thanks to the permanent point cap, Nightmare was able to break the cap and take the point at 48 seconds left. For reference, Yuri Coalition hit the 75 point cap at 1 minute and 21 seconds, which is a whole 33-second gap that Yuri Coalition couldn't benefit off of. But when the cap broke, both teams started firing ults at each other with Nightmare failing to benefit from a Boombox sub ult combo. From Yuri Coalition, Biograph and Scythe gun ults to chip down the enemy just enough along with a big katana ult from Future and Parry to kill the Rocket and chip down the Scythe gives them back to control and able to get more points. At 13 seconds however, Diamond on Banhammer was able to hit a crazy ult which wiped out Yuri Coalition from the point. This ult however was pretty bad for Nightmare. Since Yuri Coalition had a nice point lead, they could trigger overtime and then use all of their ults to not only retake the point, but just completely win the game because of it since Nightmare already used most of their valuable ults at this time, and Yuri Coalition would always win the ult trades. This was looking great for Yuriko to take Nightmare on their own pick.
Oh my god, they just take it. 1 point.
1 point, just try and get a point, just try and get 1 point. They're all low, they're all low, they're all low, they're all low. 1 point,
Dude,
1 point.
Dude, are we serious?
We just win!
No, Saito, you're gonna get that, you're gonna get that.
They can't.
No way! Oh my god, what?
Yeah! Like 1 point.
Yuri Coalition lost by 1 point in Game 2. This was soul-shattering in the grand scheme of things, but Yuri Coalition knew it wasn't over yet. They were down 0 for 2, but they still had more games to play, and their morale was still going strong despite the losses. To be honest, I have no idea why Yuri Coalition picked Doomspire. To be fair, they were running out of Conquer maps that could specifically benefit them, so this was probably the best choice remaining for them, and a pretty unique one. Hell, even if Yuri Coalition never picked this, they were able to be prestigious pros on it after a huge photo finish thanks to the plane.
Seconds on the clock.
Oh my god, it might be good. It might go to Yuri Coalition. Oh my god! He killed everyone behind him! Oh my god!
Both teams switched back to their Game 1 teams, and both teams were pretty close to each other in points. After Yuri Coalition popped their bio ult and killed the opposing tank, Yuri Coalition was able to get a slight lead away from Nightmare despite them trying to pop ults back to retake point, which resulted in being locked by point cap and Yuri Coalition being forced to kinda be off point because of it. Due to a huge boombox ult from Sharp Bull on Nightmare and Yuri Coalition having a non-optimal Scythe gun ult, Nightmare was quick to finally retain a lead in this scrim. Thanks to the plane blocking up the point, Yuri Coalition is forced to brawl off the point and needs to fight for the point now to regain it back. And Yuri Coalition quickly takes back the point, but Doomspire isn't a snowball map by any means and focuses more on fighting on the point and respawning in quickly so a point take back doesn't mean as much. And at 54 seconds, Diamond hits a big ult for shield and damage, which results in 2 deaths and Aster running into the plane for a second time due to hitboxes being a little jank. Both teams had their ults ready though, and Yuri Coalition takes action first, popping Katana and Biograph ults. After Cynthia tried the gun ult Diamond, Vapor pops gun ult right above them, giving Nightmare a much needed triple kill while retaining most of their ults, with only one person from each team staying alive from the mosh pit of ults that just happened. A huge mess up happens at around 18 seconds, where Sharpo pops their boombox ult to get an ult combo and retake point, but then doesn't notice the plane coming, which not only shuts down him, but also kills her Katana in the crossfire, which was devastating to Nightmare. Nico on Subspace then pops ult as both teams are very close in points, with Yuri Coalition trying to pull out the win thanks to their ults being on the point, but with Nightmare storing the point all at once, Diamond and Coolio ult control the point, which moves the game into overtime. Cynthia does get a good gun ult on the boombox, but Future got caught into the sub ult during Duff Kep's med ult, which takes them out. And after a fast back and forth of ults and point contesting, the plane comes in and clips Yuri Coalition's Biograph for a third time. However, Nico and Future hopped through the glass panel opening to escape the plane hitbox, which unfortunately costed the game as Nightmare was able to out-contest the point thanks to simply having more people on it, with Subspace and Katana being unable to get back on the point in time. This puts the scores in Nightmare's favor of 3-0. One more game, and Nightmare moves on to the Grand Finals run back against Rat Zone, and Yuri Coalition needs to win the next 4 games in a row to pull off quite possibly the best reverse sweep in history.
Get side. In the air.
Plane!
I'm dead to that. No, I'm not.
I'm back on.
Oh fuck!
Point cap.
Oh my god, the plane, dude!
Wait!
We're gonna win because of plane.
Pull it into the plane, didn't work. Okay, whatever.
One! Come on, let's go!
We won? Yes! Okay.
Back up.
But they are up against Nightmare, and despite it being close, Nightmare is the best scrim team and Yuri Coalition doesn't have as much experience as them. How are they possibly going to pull this off with odds stacked against them? And even though Yuriko is no stranger to comebacks, those were small, not a full-scale 4-game gauntlet. At this point, it seems bleak, but no matter what, they need to keep going forward. Due to map bans and both teams now starting to ban all the Annihilate maps, both teams were left with mostly equal Conquer maps that could be decided by the better player now, which led to SFT being the next map. However, Yuri Coalition goes one of the most off-kilter picks in the entire tournament, with Cynthia going Coil, a character that is almost never seen, especially at the time, due to being the hardest character to play, and also just not being as good compared to the rest of the cast. However, Coil can add extra survivability to Medkit while also functioning as a support DPS hybrid to help out Biograph, as it slots very well into Yuri Coalition's structure for this match. It's risky, but when you are one game away from losing, you might as well put everything on the table. The pick was working incredibly well though. Thanks to Coil and Biograph, they are able to dispatch of Nightmare's main threats like their Scythe and Subspace, so Future could go crazy on point and outbrawl Nightmare with the help of Nico on Subspace. Combined with sustainability provided by Medkit and Coil, it was proving to be an incredibly strong combination despite the point cap creeping back in. Yuri Coalition also disrupts a Boombox Bio ult combination thanks to Nico's sub ult in the middle, making Biograph a sitting duck as he continued to build up a solid point lead once more. At a minute and 30 seconds, Nightmare finally takes back the point, and despite the Katana grapple, it's pretty noticeable that Nightmare had a lot of trouble dealing with Synthia and Coil, as even if the impact isn't too great, they were doing an amazing job at diverting attention and simply being annoying. Near the last minute, Coil, Subspace, and Biograph were holding onto point for their Medkit and Katana to come back on, as permanent point cap really is a harsh punishment here. Yuri Coalition does a smart move by calling this out and walking off point for a brief moment so Nightmare could automatically break the cap and allow Yuri Coalition to gain momentum back in their favor. Getting back on the point, Nightmare completely dumps their ults in one spot, which only kills the Coil and Biograph, as they basically spend free ults all on them while being down, which is definitely overkill. Future on Katana is able to hold the point off insanely well from Bio ult in order to make even more space for Yuri Coalition. At 20 seconds, Nightmare's decision to spend ults seems to backfire. Yuriko is ahead by 24 points and they all have ults ready, while Nightmare needs to build ults up in overtime to actually win this, which shows the overuse of ults coming back to bite. Before overtime starts, Aster hits a great execution on Coolio, and even though Nightmare is popping ults, Yuri Coalition has a Medkit ult in response which negates most of the damage. Uprising does pop a Bio ult, but Future reacts with a crazy read, grappling him back down and destroying his entire ult, which wipes off Nightmare and puts a point on the board for Yuri Coalition, making the score 3-1 favoring Nightmare. Katana's dead! Beat Bio ult, Bio ult, Bio ult, Bio ult!
Dead!
Let's go! We take a game! Yay!
Low, and that might just be that round.
Okay, Yuriko is just dominating right now.
Jesus. There's a potential.
No, they're pulling out all the stops for this one.
It's here. It could be.
I think the Coil might be the pick because I see
definitely.
Cynthia is just really causing havoc in the backline.
Dodgeball Conquer was up next, and Yuri Coalition decided to stick with the first layout showing up, with that being Ring. A pretty chaotic layout on Conquer. Yuri Coalition pulls out the Sword Scythe as Nightmare swaps out a Bio for Rocket thanks to area control on this map. While Yuri Coalition does have a strong front line, Nightmare going sub and Rocket on a comp including Sword, Katana, and Medkit is pretty strong for them, as they can reliably break holes through Yuriko's strong bulky targets, especially thanks to Boombox for disruption. And it showed, since in the first 30 seconds, Nightmare already got a pwned. Pwns are generally really bad for a team to get, as the enemy team can regroup much easier, but it's pretty hype so it works out. For a good portion of this game, the points are equal, as Yuri Coalition pretty much throws themselves onto the point. Since they keep trying to rush Nightmare's backlines, Nightmare is forced off the point to keep protecting them constantly, which allows the points to be very equal, which is honestly a good thing for Yuri Coalition. Not only that, Nico on Sword was acting almost as a decoy to Nightmare's Katana, as the rest of the team was fighting off Nightmare's team, but Katana seemed to be distracted fighting the lone sword, which benefited Yuriko a bit. After a rush in from Aster once more, Yuriko was finally maintaining some point presence, and due to Nightmare being over 40 points, they wouldn't have to worry about waiting on a long point cap timer as it will auto break. Using Bio and Med ult, they were able to fend off point for a bit, but thanks to Sharp Bolt popping Boombox ult, Nightmare was able to get a quad on Yuriko and retake the point once more. Yuri Coalition does try to fight back onto the point, but Nightmare is dishing out their ults in return to keep control. Unfortunately, Yuriko mistimes a Scythe gun ult which gets caught by a Katana parry, eviscerating their health bar. However, Nightmare is actually in a disadvantaged state at this point. Now it's their turn against the point cap. This causes Yuriko to actually get an opening to come back, as Nightmare really just can't go out from the point cap. Eventually, they break the cap. And even if Aster got caught in a sub ult, Aster goes for an ult on the next respawn and gets caught by a Katana ult to beat it out. Dovekep's Med ult comes in clutch with a double revive, and then Vapor makes a grave mistake, gun ulting right onto Future as Katana with a parry which destroys him and Diamond completely. This gives Yuriko so much leverage on the point, which allows them to hold it down. Nightmare holds on however, and retakes with Diamond on a sliver of health. which may be able to actually deny overtime from happening, but Yuriko barely gets overtime to happen now. And honestly, I won't even say a word during the overtime sequence happening. Just watch how magical this was.
Comes in as well.
Going, but Nekio wasn't so needed. And a lot of nightmares dropping now.
But wait, the Katana's back, but he has no teammates.
No teammates for Katana and
He has no teammates.
in the lead.
This
Sordo.
Diamond living there might be what comes back to bite them. And the final
Cycle
serenade
coming
is
in.
countered by the lunge. 2 seconds on the clock.
Oh my, he's
Blue
still
box coming in.
going. Yuri Coalition taking heavy hits, they're going down. Pichu with only one left on the
Scrim is
point.
paused. I don't know what's happening.
Scream is paused. Are you serious? Oh God,
Wait.
what's happening?
Shutdown onto the subspace
Still
ultis here.
going.
The
Yuri
one after
Coalition
still in overdrive.
not letting it over.
Portal's coming in hot.
Sordo getting a lot of
Katana
damage
gets
on
hit.
everyone.
There's a kill. The counter comes in and it's big.
Oh my
The
God!
revive and he's
How's
back in the
it still
game.
going?
We're rocking all.
The Sordo! Katana
2
will get a
seconds
lot
on
of
the
damage.
clock.
Yuriko. What the hell? Why did the... Oh my God.
It's 2-3. Wipes my brow. Finish my sentence.
Woo! Bro.
Reverse sweep is possible.
Get on!
Guys, please!
Taunted! Rocket
Get
ult!
on!
Someone's low! Someone's
I
low!
hit BB!
Yes! Oh my God! Yo!
We were 2 seconds away from losing.
Let's beat Bay! Let's go! Shit! Top of the building! Let's fucking go! Oh my God! I locked in OT. Off the bat, this looked pretty bad for Yuri Coalition. Out of nowhere, Nightmare whips out the Banana Boombox combo. Banana is a hard matchup fish team that tries to read a team not going heavy on tank busting and prioritizes brawls on point that he could win thanks to the 2 tanks. Unfortunately, Yuriko did not have Nico on subspace, so the real only way to bust down the tanks was with Scythe, who was fairly unreliable in this regard. Yuriko needs a miracle to make this happen. However, this did come with the payoff of Coolio going Katana instead of subspace and relying all on Scythe and Rocket as tank busters, so anything can happen here. As soon as the game starts, Yuriko completely chokes them with aggression and forces a brawl win for them thanks to Biograph and Sword's bulk up front, along with Scythe and Katana dealing with the jumping banhammer. Nightmare does retake the point, but Cynthia on Scythe accidentally solo dives the point, resulting into her death, but thanks to Katana, Nightmare is forced off the point, giving Yuriko the advantage once more. A big issue Nightmare had was that both tanks were kind of diving Future on Katana all the time. This caused the tanks to not only be clumped up for Future to attack all at once, but Scythe gets easy access to break their health bars because she'll know where they are at all times. Both Scythes get great gun ults, and the Med Revive comes in when Nightmare starts to rush back on the point. Diamond does get great ban ults at 2 minutes, but this was completely balanced out by how Future's Katana ult hit so many people that Yuriko was still contesting the point in their favor because of it. Sword, Katana, and Scythe kept Nightmare at bay on the ramp to stay on point, but when they got swamped off, this was rather good for Yuriko more than Nightmare. Nightmare breaks the point cap for Yuriko once more, and they go for an all-out to fully retake point. Nightmare fights back, but a triple revive from Dubkep's metal puts Yuriko's pressure back in to trade kills back and forth. Both teams are insanely close going into the last 10 seconds, and it goes into overtime as soon as Yuriko gets a double kill on Ban and Boombox. And even though Nightmare does retake during overtime, Yuri Coalition built up a solid lead, so Nightmare can't fully retake the point to win the game here. And Future, alone on point, hits quite possibly the best Katana parry I have ever seen. That parry chipped most of Nightmare completely, allowing Yuriko to swamp and sweep off the point to easily retake and get the score down to 3-3. Match points, and the first ever opportunity of a reverse sweep against the best team in the game.
4 kills on the side of Nightmare, they cleared the
The
point.
counter from Future, oh my
The
god.
counter is
Good
huge.
damage. Rockio
The
going
rocket
in
barrage
as
here.
Nightmare.
Just power, 2 kills on
Yuri
Yuriko,
Coalition
3 kills on
counting down.
Yuriko.
Have you seen a
Down
3-3?
4 kills on Yuriko.
Oh, dude.
5 kills on Yuriko.
3-3. Match point. Is this
Match
the reverse sweep? No way. This reverse sweep would actually be so crazy.
Oh my god.
And yeah.
Damn it. Shoot.
Oh my lord.
Yes, we need to lock it.
Alright, we need to
I
lock
feel
in.
like we should just experiment with ramp. We want subspace and we want. Okay.
We want
Top map is
subspace.
Maul.
Okay, remember, Tana parry! Good parry!
They're all low. Tana, get Tana. Nice. Get BB, get BB.
Beam's dead!
Stay on.
Retreat.
We're fucking going! Oh my god!
I'm happy with that.
Game 7! We're doing this fucking again! We're back! We're fucking
I don't
back!
even care if we lose anymore. This is so fun.
Are back!
You know what? It's because of the bowling.
We are back! No match has ever gotten this close, this nail-biting, and this intense ever. Can the underdog rising team beat the true final boss in the end? Well, that was going to be found out in Game 7. The wheel picked this map and ended up being Roblox Mall of all maps. At this point, the match had almost 100 spectators watching. The comeback was real. Yuriko sticks with Sword on their comp, which is a bit of an odd pick for them, but everything is on the line here, so might as well stick with what works. However, Nightmare learned their lesson and switched out Rocket for Biograph yet again for offensive pressure and put Kuyo back on subspace. Nightmare gets a full point retake immediately, but Yuri Coalition claps back with their own full retake. Later on, Yuriko gets their bio ult in and goes for a crazy retake play, killing subspace and Scythe with Aster, basically killing himself onto Diamond just so he wouldn't get the shield reward from a great katana ult before having the rest of Yuriko clean up everywhere else. Metal comes out, but Yuriko eventually loses the point as Maul is such an unpredictable map where teams constantly lose pressure all the time. Yuriko gets another retake after Sword swamps that subspace with an ult, points being neck and neck. Diamond gets a katana ult off with an amazing parry of his own to get back to the point once more, getting the pwned. Nightmare fails to stagger Yuriko and is forced back, but then gets yet another pwned on Yuriko. This was fine for Yuriko though. Nightmare was approaching the 100 point cap and anyone could win on Maul. Nothing was over yet. Sub ult from Kuyo comes out with no real value as Metal, along with Yuriko playing extremely well, breaks the cap and catches up quickly to Nightmare. Nightmare gets the point back again and starts holding on to the point, having a lead for overtime if it does happen. Dovecap in future go for an ult combo for a full retake, but Dovecap melts a little too low, getting shut down by Uprising on bio, which is screw Yuriko up big time. Thanks to Aster though, Yuri Coalition procs overtime, but with no more ults to spare and Nightmare having all their ults, they retake the point quickly and win the game barely, 4-3 against the underdogs of Yuri Coalition. And after such a game, both teams come on stage to really say how that was possibly the best scrim they have ever done, and ended off with a bit of a laugh at their practices and whatnot.
I'm dead here.
Get a point, get a point, get a point, get a point, get a point! Ah, damn it! Bro, I had so much fun! Oh my god.
Honestly, so if you didn't get shut down, I think we just won then and there.
Yeah.
I think we just won then and there.
They need to chase me.
I think the issue was like bowling was an issue.
Yeah,
Bowling, we just got screwed by
B.
A, point cap, and B, bad game design.
Pull them in! Pull them in!
You guys can do it, you guys can do it, you guys can do it. Down here flying on.
Let's go! Let's go! Hoorah! Let's go! Finals? Again? Again? Take two?
After such a hard-fought battle of comebacks and ult and amazing gameplay, it almost felt like time stopped for me when we lost Maul. I was this sword and subspace playing for Yuri Coalition for months and I always wanted to win against the best. I should have felt upset when we failed the reverse sweep, but what could have made me upset actually was a different feeling. I felt happy. I felt so good after that scrim. Losing sucked, but we kept up so well with the best team, and that feeling made me realize that not all scrims have to be wins to be fun. It felt like my mentality just completely flipped. I never had a scrim this close, this hype, and this memorable with so many intricate plays and very incredible moments all at once. Being the underdogs against the Titans, keeping up despite the score deficits, and always keeping up a high morale while being able to hold our ground and go crazy made me feel happy. I felt like I was doing great. Yeah, losing Bowling Alley by 1 point and losing Doomspire because of the glass pane kinda suck in retrospect, but that's just how fighting is. We love this game for all of its funny mechanics and jank. It doesn't matter if we lost when the stakes were high, it matters that we put on such an amazing skill showcase for everyone to see, and for everyone to look back on from both viewpoints. And even if we will most likely never fight Nightmare ever again, the one time we actually do fight Nightmare was such a memorable experience, and I don't think it'll be topped ever again despite how many great scrims have been happening in more recent times. I just think if there is ever a scrim that has a great pace, great games, unpredictable results, and truly shows the spirit in fighting's whole design, this scrim truly takes it in almost every category for me personally. You could call me biased, but that's why it's the best in my opinion. It's everything I love in a scrim at once and in full force. I genuinely think it's the best high level play we have ever seen in fighting at once ever, and someday maybe it could be recreated, but who knows. That's why Nightmare vs Yuri Coalition in CRC Rival Revolt Losers Finals is the best fighting scrim of all time. By the way, it is 9 PM and I just want to say, Aphrix, you are fat. Upload a video. Come on. You've been sitting on like 10 videos. Come on. Come on. Nah, I'm just playing with you, but like, come on. Come on, please. Please. This is the only way I can actually say this. Please.